That the blue, yeah.
Okay.
I don't. They're not actually prescription. They're just a blue.
We
Oh,
are
it's been bothering me
online.
on my phone.
Blurry.
I'd like to call this caucus meeting to order. I'll be looking for a motion to dispense with the reading in the minutes of the second regular meeting dated Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, except prepared by the clerk. Before I go any further, Dallas is going to have to convene your committee to add number 3, all right?
Yes. Let me do that now, Mike, or will
Well,
you call
we'll
for
get
committee?
down to committees.
Yes.
Communications, there's one. Any comments on communications? Mayor's report. Mayor got a report?
Yes, it did.
Bob, do you know?
Yep, okay.
I think she does.
She's gonna give a verbal.
Yep, bye, yep.
She didn't write one?
She didn't mention she was gonna give a verbal report.
Can you do it on the floor?
Well,
She'll do it on the floor, I guess.
we'll continue on and come back if we have to. Okay, we're gonna go to standing committees. Dallas, you wanna convene your committee to add number 3?
Yes. I'd like to call this finance and legislation meeting to order. Mr. Bayes here. Mr. Ballack
Here.
Mr. Bigley is here. We have one piece from the Mayor's Safety Service Director and Mr. Mitchum, and it is a resolution authorizing the mayor to contract with the Mahoning County Land Reutilization Corporation for the abatement of the nuisance properties and declaring an emergency. Bob, do you want to speak on this at all?
So the state government gave the county a lot of money for demos, and instead of spending our own money for the demos, we're going in with the county, and they're gonna use the state money to help demo our properties. But they want us involved by the December 25th, so that's why we're asking for this to be passed now. So we can
Are they requiring anything of us?
The only thing we have to do is property searches, and we already had those done because we were planning on demoing.
And
So-
I guess my next question would be, I'm assuming if they help us demo, the properties go into their land bank, is that correct?
No, but they're gonna take care of everything. They're gonna bid it all out and take care of all the requirements for the
Great.
demo.
So we don't have any hand in who gets picked or just gets done, and
Yep.
they're gonna help us pay for it?
Yes,
Good.
Is it this,
So-
these 6 parcels?
those 6 parcels are the ones.
So that'll, well, 7th Street, you got 7th on there?
No, 7th Street is not on
Mr. Beagley has, I ran the properties. You can tell them the addresses if you'd like.
I have a list, Meg?
Yeah, they're attached to the legislation.
Because I just seen the parcel ID.
Yeah, no, I ran one.
Bob, is there a reason why
Oh,
it's
okay.
not on there?
So,
Yes.
these
It's-
ones.
it's
I'll read it
still-
for
Ah,
everybody.
there you go.
it. Legally not ready to go.
Okay. First one is 18 Elm Street. Is it okay if I read?
Yep.
Just so if anybody has any. 14 Haywood. 14 Haywood. Let's just be a duplicate. 59 Spring Street. 106 Perry. And there's no address on that, it just says Washington. The parcel, you'll be covered in here because of the parcel.
Yes.
And that's obviously what legislation will use to identify it. More than the address, the parcel number is more specific.
Correct. I don't think this is actually on Washington. I think this is actually,
I ran the parcel ID.
Yeah.
for-
Yeah, so they're
So-
Yeah, that's
sometimes,
whenever it came up, yeah.
because you see there's an address.
yes.
That
Okay.
might be Chestnut.
Does anybody have any questions on these properties?
That's only 40.
Yeah.
That's all that's here.
I believe the 5th one is 15 Chestnut Street.
And one is a duplicate. So I don't know, 14,
I think it's a double
Haywood.
lot.
it is a double lot because
14
they're
Haywood
two
is, yes.
separate parcel IDs.
Yes.
So.
The house that right next door here, is it still being looked at?
No, that one actually should be on the
That should be on
list.
the list. Oh, is
Yeah,
that
18.
Is that 18?
18
Yeah.
Elm Street.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else have anything before we vote on
Get a
this?
motion?
Motion to pass,
Motion to bring it up.
a second?
I'll second it.
That's it for finance and legislation. Nobody else has anything? Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, for standing committees.
Finance and legislation for November 15th at 6 o'clock.
Any other committees? Okay, if not legislation, we have three pieces. Questions or comments on the legislation? Mayor, I don't know if you had a report or not, or they said you may have a verbal one
I
that
have a
you're,
verbal one. I'm sorry, I was in the hallway.
you're gonna do it in the floor, or you're gonna do it here?
Whatever you prefer.
Whatever you wanna do.
I could do it right
Okay,
now. So I don't have a written one, I'll have it printed for next week for communication for council. We have a Toys for Tots drop-off location at ECMSI. We did announce our holiday lights contest. It'll be the fourth year in a row. There was a couple minor changes. That information is all on our Facebook. We are adding this year the Christmas parade that we talked about last time, our last meeting. So those signups are also being taken now. We had a great weekend. There were 3 different events: the chili cook-off, the Phipps Family Memorial Chili Cook-off at Ambets, the pancake breakfast, the Rotary breakfast at the high school, and a stuffed pepper dinner for Struthers Unleashed, and they all were very well traffic, thank you. Light City Church is having a free community dinner on November 15th at 5:30. We will have 3 food drives coming up. There will be 2 at Ambets and 1 at Roosevelt Park in Camel. That Struthers will be, Struthers, Lowville, Camel, Coydsville will all be, any residents will be able to go there for that. We'll be announcing those on our Facebook and then also announcing those via text. We'd like to congratulate the football team for making it to the 13th week. We played this Friday. I believe that's gonna be televised. And I wanna congratulate everybody on
You too?
everybody here. I think that speaks volumes that we didn't have any opponents. I feel like that's a step in the right direction for all of us,
It's a
that we're
good
doing
thing.
something right.
I'm looking forward to another 2 years with everybody.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank the voters for passing the renewal.
Yep, that was next on my list. That's all I had too.
any questions or comments for our mayor? If none, we're gonna go on unfinished business. I'd like to bring up some unfinished business. I gave these folks some forms for committees. I'd like for you to put down on the bottom of your form a clerk of council pro temp. In case Megan's not here, we need to have somebody identified as to take her place in case she's off absent. Okay, so make sure you put a note of somebody's name, get together, come up with somebody, but put that on the bottom of the forms.
I thought I swear. I
We
thought
did
we did
one
it.
time for her, we were talking about it last week, I didn't quite remember, but I think Megan did.
Didn't in the past, Mike, though, we used to vote on that?
No, we never.
No, only for president?
Just only for president, but I think it is important that we do a clerk position as well, just so someone's identified in
Sure.
case Megan's absent. Whatever.
It's your turn.
Yeah, I agree.
It's your turn.
Anything else on our unfinished business? New business? Report of our law director, John?
I have no report this evening.
Questions for our law director?
Everything's the same.
Our auditor's not here, our safety director, Bob, you have anything for
I
us
have
tonight?
nothing for you this evening.
Okay,
That's a good thing.
questions or comments for our safety
Yeah, I just have a
director?
question about, the fire department, the floor, have you heard any updates about,
I just got an email from our engineer, and no, they haven't made a decision yet, so
okay,
they're still disputing what it was.
okay.
Bob, also, I just wanted to verify again, I did this last week, just for the questions that I get. All of the road patching go into center line. If they didn't go to center line, it's only a temporary fix, and they're gonna come back and enlarge them to
The
center
ones
line.
that did not make it to the center line, like the Midlothian one, the individual has been informed that they have to mill to the center line and put down patch. Now, the problem with this is, because it wasn't done at the same time, it actually, you're creating another joint, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But he was told that he has to go to the center line,
But it's from curb to center?
curb to center line.
Okay.
6 inches on each side of wherever the dig was. So, they were given a copy of our ordinance and
Okay,
what to follow.
very good, thank you.
One more, did you give Frank over a look at that property on Geneva?
I did tell him about it, and I didn't get a report back from him, but I'm sure he took care of it. He was familiar with that area, so I don't know what exactly happened. I'll follow up with him on that tomorrow, because I did tell him about it, but like I said, I didn't follow up. I told him on Friday, forgot about it by Monday.
Very good.
And Kenny Day, is not gonna be here today.
I was not gonna be here.
Forget him.
He has a medical emergency, and so we'll reschedule to have him come in. Okay.
Anything else? Motion adjourned?
Motion.
Wait,
Do-
Second.
Hold on
Do we,
once.
do
Hold
we
on.
have a speaker?
If you wanna,
It's okay with me if it's okay with everybody else.
What's that?
Yeah.
Speaker?
Oh,
you want,
Since
You
it's
wanna
not on
sit
the
or-
docket, do you wanna vote, like your meeting, do you wanna vote on
no,
it?
she can come up, but when I, come on up.
you want her to sit here? Is that okay?
Yeah, it don't matter.
Okay.
An empty seat.
Well, hello, and thank you all for inviting me here tonight. I am Catherine Gervis. I work for a company called Tool Design that was hired by the Ohio Department of Transportation to write an active transportation plan for your community. You all applied to have an active transportation plan written, and I've worked with Bob and Kat and Megan and a group of other folks in the community over the last year to do that. Let me just start by saying an active transportation plan, active transportation is moving from one place to another using human powered. So think about walking, biking, could even include skateboarding, and oftentimes people riding the bus is called active transportation because you typically have to walk or bike from wherever you're starting to the bus, and then from wherever the bus stop is to wherever you're ending. And increasingly, the Ohio Department of Transportation, which in my lifetime was known, earlier in my lifetime was known as the Ohio Department of Highways, is really looking at active transportation because they're seeing a demand for that across the state. And I'm not sure what motivated you all to apply to have an active transportation plan written, but there must have been some interest here in this community.
we need
initially
money
to-
for sidewalks, we need money for everything, so we need a plan to apply for the money.
Yes, and
Yeah.
having an active transportation plan positions you well to apply for dollars, whether that's from Eastgate, or we actually wrote your plan through the lens of a school travel plan, so you can apply for Safe Routes to School funding for the next 5 years once you've adopted an active transportation plan, and it can pay for things like sidewalks and bike lanes and those sorts of things. As well as other funding sources. And we started this process about a year ago, this fall. We began by doing a policy and plan review of everything you all had, or that your region had, like Eastgate, that related to that. We looked at existing conditions, which is just ODOT's way of saying like what's happening right now. And so we looked at a lot of ODOT numbers and other numbers that were available. We, in the fall, had our first stakeholder meeting, and the folks who sat on that stakeholder committee, and I'll send you all, or I'll send the mayor, a draft copy of the plan to review. We'll make any final edits and then send it out to you all to do with as you wish. I would imagine you'll adopt it to position yourself for funding. But the stakeholders included Christina Boll, help me with pronunciation on Bert's last name. Zine. Tricia Deavon from Eastgate Regional Council of Governments, which is an organization that can help fund transportation-related things. Ariel Freeman, one of the local business owners, Higher Self and Gems. Kristen Fox, Patricia Green, who's with Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church. Carol, Jean, and Drew Hurt, local business owners and also involved in the Struthers School Foundation and Caslow Neighborhood. Dennis Johnson, a local bike walk advocate. Morgan Minnow, high school students at Struthers High School. Justin Mondick, also with Eastgate, and the Director of Planning now, so that's very helpful to you all. Johnny Morris with the Nebo neighborhood, and Chris Surma with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and then of course Bob and Kat and Megan and Sam, who wrote your comprehensive plan, also assisted. And then there were a variety of other people on our team who helped with that plan. We met with that stakeholder group 3 times over the last year. And we went through ODOT's process to write the plan in a way that would position you all well in ODOT's eyes. The vision statement the group came up with for what Struthers might look like is that walking and bicycling in Struthers is a safe, convenient, and pleasant transportation option for people of all ages and all abilities. And there were 4 goals related to safety. Walking and biking will be a safe option for people in Struthers. This may involve separating people walking and biking from high-speed roadways with heavy traffic. Partners such as the Eastgate Regional Council of Governments and the Ohio Department of Transportation will collaborate on this goal. The second goal was around joy. Walking and biking through Struthers will be a pleasant experience. People on sidewalks and bike paths will enjoy well-maintained facilities while being able to experience the natural sights and popular destinations throughout the city. Walking and biking trips will be smooth and stress-free. Convenience was the third goal. Struthers will make it convenient to walk and bike by ensuring that sidewalks and bike paths connect people to their destinations in the most direct way possible. The city will avoid choosing walking and biking routes that add significant distance to people's trips. And the fourth goal was around accessibility. The walking and biking network in Struthers will accommodate people of all ages and abilities, including people with disabilities. Walking and biking will be an accessible option for everyone in Struthers, regardless of income, race, or neighborhood. We did some engagement both with the stakeholder group, our 3 in-person meetings with the folks on the stakeholder group, and then some meetings in between. We met monthly with Bob and the mayor. We did a caregiver survey, which is a survey that the Ohio Department of Transportation puts together as part of their Safe Routes to School funding. And again, that positions you well for Safe Routes to School funding. There were 101 respondents to that. And that would be parents and other folks who have the primary care responsibility of the children in the schools. Did you want to jump in?
That was approved through Pete Perone and everybody, so we sent that home to parents through the schools, so we got cooperation with the schools.
Yeah. We had stakeholder conversations with business owners, some of the faith leaders, some other folks just in the community. I actually walked and biked quite a bit of Struthers. You have a really beautiful community here, and had conversations with people. I met some of you all at the Easter egg hunt. I was at both Easter egg hunts, and we did a pop-up and talked to people there, and actually had quite a few kids talk with us, and then on the street conversations. Just talking to people about what their current experience is, what their desire is, what their interest is. The big key takeaways as far as destinations that people might be interested in walking or biking to. Giant Eagle and just basically Youngstown Poland Road is a big destination area that people are interested in.
We don't have a giant
Oh,
IGA.
thank you. Apologies, I'm gonna correct that in here
Yeah.
right now.
I would love to.
Actually, I think that came up with, the gentleman who bikes out of town to the Giant Eagle. Yep, we wrote that down wrong, sorry.
I'll tell you more.
Johnny, yeah. Yeah, the IGA. Downtown Struthers is a destination, that people brought up in the survey, and then some of your business owners are really interested in a walkable downtown, in large part because it's an economic development driver. When you've got a place where people are able to walk and bike easily, they tend to spend money in those areas. And then the schools were the other places that came up as really primary destinations for us to think about. And then the bus route that runs through town, thinking about how to make sure that walking or biking to the bus route, for people who have to use the bus to get places. The streets currently serving as key routes for biking and walking, Youngstown Poland Road, Bridge Street, 5th Street, and Center Street. And we pulled that information, there's a company called Streetlight that actually collects data, collects cell phone data, and then reports where they see people walking and biking. And my guess is they do that by the pace that people are traveling. When we asked people what their top barriers for walking was, they mentioned missing or damaged sidewalks. So again, having access to dollars that could help build sidewalks that don't have to be your dollars could be really helpful. Unsafe crossings, places where they want to cross the street, where they just feel nervous about crossing given the current conditions. Vehicle speeds, which is, we hear that all over. Distance, and then gravel on sidewalks. In particular, we heard that from kids a lot. We actually had kids draw pictures of themselves slipping when they were skateboarding on sidewalks. When we asked about what the top barriers to bicycling was, we heard, lack of separation, particularly on the busier roads for people who are nervous about biking with cars. On your residential streets, it's pretty comfortable right now. Hills, distance, lack of secure bike parking was one of the things that came up. And some folks mentioned unwanted interaction with police. One of the things we noticed was there may be some confusion about what the laws are, particularly related to biking and walking in the community. Let me skip through this part. We also, as part of our existing conditions report, we did a crash analysis, a systemic safety analysis, a walking and biking activity analysis, a needs analysis, a demand analysis, network connectivity and facilities analysis, level of traffic stress, and we looked at health context. Again, these are things that the Ohio Department of Transportation really wants us to dig into all of these things to see, what the current conditions are and what might be helpful. And all of those things will be included in the final report. And so from those analysis and the community engagement, we came up with a series of recommendations that we worked with the stakeholder group and the mayor and the safety director on. The big picture recommendations related to sidewalks, as part of your comprehensive plan, you have a really nice map of what your current sidewalk conditions are, including like where there are missing or really damaged sidewalks. Our primary recommendations, because you have a good chunk of missing sidewalks, was to really focus on new sidewalks where they are absent within a quarter mile of schools. In part, those are important destinations, and in part, those are funding opportunities. Safe Routes to School funding likes to fund sidewalks that are close to schools. Building new sidewalks where they're absent on the bus corridors so that we're sure that people can get to and from buses safely. Improve existing sidewalk conditions where they're in poor condition within a quarter mile of schools, and improving sidewalk conditions where they're in poor conditions within a quarter mile of sidewalks. Let's see. Intersections, the big picture focus on intersections was making intersections safer that have a higher risk of pedestrian or bicycle crash when adding a sidewalk or a bicycle facility to the street, really looking at those. And so we have a map, I'm sorry I'm not able to present that, where we pulled out 5 key intersections for improvements. 2 on Youngstown, Poland, and 1 at Elm in Youngstown in Poland, and
At the top of Geneva.
Geneva.
1 on 5th Street at Elm, 1 on Bridge Street at Broad, and 1 on Bridge, oh no, I'm sorry, there's 6. 1 on Bridge Street at, do you know where that?
The center,
Okay,
or no,
well,
that's really hard to read.
yeah,
Lowville Road and Center,
And Mobile Road.
and Lowell Road and Broad, and Bridge, yeah,
where we do,
yeah.
and then what's that?
This is, Bridge and Broad.
Bridge and Broad, so
Yeah.
improve it, cause there's a light there already, so improving that one.
Right, right, yeah. For bike facilities, we talked about a number of improvements related to bike facilities. There were only 2 spots where we felt like separated facilities would be helpful. 1 on Youngstown, Poland, and the other on 5th Street, where you've got all those destinations, and in particular the schools. There is a type of bicycle treatment that's called a bike boulevard, where it doesn't actually change, you don't actually do any separation on the road, but you paint a large bicycle on the road, and it just alerts both drivers that this is a place where bicyclists might be, and it encourages people who are riding bikes to ride in those areas. Just people, bikes are allowed to ride on any streets that cars are on except freeways, but this is a way to help direct people on bikes to particular places and to encourage motorists to look out for them. And so we recommended bike boulevards on several streets, including Genevieve, Overlook Boulevard, Garfield Street, Argonne, 8th Street, Sexton Street, so like really around the school areas, and then also on Center Street, and when we send you this, you'll have like nice lovely maps of all of these things that I'm describing right now. We also color coded the streets with the types of treatments that felt like they made the most sense given what kind of width you have in the street, what the level of traffic volume is, and those sorts of things. So you'll have recommendations for the types of, whether it's a bicycle lane or, like I mentioned, a bike boulevard, or something that's more separated, like a buffered bike lane or a shared use path. We also went through a prioritization process that the Ohio Department of Transportation uses, looking at the demand, like what they think the demand is based on a series of criteria. They care a lot about equity, and so that was another of the prioritization factors, and the equity factor. Well, let me say this first. The demand map, demand priorities look at employment density, population density, where people are currently walking and biking, places around parks, employment areas, and people 200% below the poverty level. The equity analysis that ODOT uses looks at young people, older people, because aging in place is really important, and as you all know, as an AARP community, like really serving seniors is important. Folks with limited English proficiency, people who don't have access to a car or truck, some sort of motor vehicle in their home, areas with high poverty, folks with no high school diploma, and minority groups. And then the other three areas that were used in the prioritization had to do with safety and comfort for people biking, what would make the best, in walking and biking, what would make the best connections, and then stakeholder input. Like we use those 4 prioritizations that ODOT has, and then we really talk to the stakeholder group and said, does this feel like it makes sense? Are there places we need to tweak related to that? And I know you all have a meeting soon. And so that actually helped us prioritize where it might make sense to start first, assuming you had access to the money that you would like. And so you'll also see a prioritization map that comes out of the plan. Having said that, sometimes there are dollars that like to pay for one thing and not another, and you get access to those dollars, and it makes sense to utilize those dollars when you get access to them. So the prioritization recommendations should be used as it makes sense for your community. I think one of the things that was really interesting that came out of this process, like you all have not even adopted it yet, but Eastgate was very involved in the process, and they've actually prioritized Youngstown Poland Road, so I think you're gonna start to see some improvements. They're interested in helping you all make improvements on that road.
I can jump in there.
Yeah.
They already started the committee, so we have a committee with Poland, Boardman, Youngstown, Struthers, and a lot of the stakeholders on. So we're going on our second meeting.
The second meeting will be in December, beginning of.
That's already started, so that's good.
And then we were able to do a rendering of another area that might be a good one for you all to prioritize. And in talking with the mayor, Fifth Street was another high priority area, and so we actually put together a rendering of what Fifth Street might look like if we had some improved crossings, particularly around the school, and bike lanes, again, particularly around the school and the business area, that can help you in an application process for funding. So the final document will be about 90 pages. It will also include a lot more specifics than I've been able to share here. Some of the exact quotes we got from people who responded with an interest around biking and walking, and what they felt were barriers, and what could make them more interested in walking and biking. And then, like, we know that smaller cities like Struthers, which are great places to live, often are not resourced in the way that larger cities are, and so some like really direct, specific next steps for things that you might be interested in. So like which agencies you might want to work with. I will go through just a few of the responses from the caregiver survey that were really interesting. As it relates to the schools, we do know that there are already some kids walking and biking to school, and in fact, about 50% of the kids, their caregivers, their parents or grandparents, whoever is caring for them, report that about 50% of children are already asking to walk or bike to school, and that 75% of those kids live within a mile of school. So that's a really walkable or bikeable distance. And we know that parents actually report, about 79% of parents report that they think walking and biking is very healthy, with an additional 16% saying that it's healthy. So parents have a good opinion about it being healthy for kids to do that. Parents have pretty, about 55, let me see. Oh no, about almost 40, 5% of parents think their kids would have fun walking and biking to school, but a big group of parents worry about safety. And so infrastructure improvements could really lead to more biking and walking. There's interest among children, and parents have good feelings about it. And so we have some recommendations in the plan. Most of the recommendations are related to how sidewalks or bike lanes could be improved, but we have some program recommendations in there. And some of those are really related to schools and what could be done around school policies to encourage biking and walking, what sorts of encouragement campaigns, like bike to school days, walk to school days, bike buses. There was also a conversation about potentially reviewing city code and comparing it to the Ohio Revised Code, where the Ohio Revised Code has dominance over city code, where there may be some confusion, which could really help police if they are being instructed in two different ways to just like clarify for law enforcement. It also may be advantageous to you all to pass a complete streets policy, which Eastgate would be very interested in helping you do. And a complete streets policy just says, when we're touching a street or making a major change on a street, we're gonna consider not just people driving on that street, but what those conditions are for people walking, biking, using transit.
In your study, have you guys done anything to know how many people, what the percentage of people who ride a bike or walk is versus, that use those streets versus the people who use a car?
Yeah, and that stuff is in the report. You currently have fairly low numbers of folks, which I'm sure you won't be surprised by. And oftentimes, it's kind of like, we don't really need a bridge in this place because nobody's swimming across the water here. Oftentimes there's a demand for people walking and biking, they just don't feel safe. The conditions aren't good for them to do that. And so part of what this plan is about is like how you could create conditions, particularly for, again, younger residents and older residents who it may not make sense for them to drive, but it does make sense for them to be active participants in the community. And particularly when we're talking about older residents, like e-bikes can be really game-changing for older residents.
May I ask you to wrap it up because we're gonna get ready to go on our
Yeah.
regular meeting.
There are other program and policy recommendations that'll be part of this plan, and I can leave my card for people, and I'll continue to work with Kat and Bob to wrap this piece up and leave it with you all to do what makes sense for your community. And so, yeah, is there anything else?
No, we just wanna thank you for all the time you put into this. I know this is pretty much like the comprehensive plan, so we would like to adopt the plan after we go over it and check it, but this is also, these are suggestions on what we can apply for.
And
So if there's something we don't agree with, just like with the comprehensive plan, if there's something we all don't think would work, then that's not something so it's just.
I just want to be sure by adopting it, we're not signing on to that these things can be done whenever they want. Because there might be portions of that we agree with and portions that we don't.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're gonna wanna work with you all to make sure the plan doesn't include things that you don't agree with.
Okay.
So, like, some of the existing conditions stuff, like the stuff that like, here's what the data says. But if there's a program or policy that your stakeholder group liked or recommended, but you as a council don't wanna adopt, we're probably gonna wanna remove that from the plan.
Okay,
So, yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So if we receive some funding
Mm-hmm.
for like sidewalks and this and that, like around by the schools.
Yeah.
And they're lifted by trees,
Mm-hmm.
does that tree come down in that devil strip?
That only depends on
It
what grant
depends.
money you get and how it's worded.
So there, like, you know how we got safer routes to school on Garfield,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
guys were here for that.
right,
And there were some trees that needed to be removed, there's
Right.
ways they can shave the root, there's
Yeah.
ways they can create a path
Create-
around
yeah.
it, it depends on where it is specifically.
There is that section between the streets of
Yeah,
Joseph.
okay.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, but that's how you get, we're gonna be, from what I understand, we're gonna be the only city in Mahoning County that's going to have an updated plan that we can apply for. So that makes it very I don't want to say easy, but it makes,
There are less people to compete against statewide.
You have to ask, you have to.
sorry,
Yep.
Was this part of the grant? that we
Need a
got for
motion to
downtown?
adjourn,
no.
Make a motion.
second.
Second.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.